Imagine a world where the Bible as we know it today didn't exist, where the stories of Jesus, the teachings of the apostles, and the wisdom of the early church were scattered across countless texts, some known and some lost to time. This world is not a mere fantasy. It was the reality of the early Christian communities. The texts that shaped this world, now collectively known as the Nag Hammadi texts and the Apostolic Fathers, provide a fascinating glimpse into a Christianity that was both diverse and contentious. These texts challenge our understanding of what early Christianity was and what it could have been. They offer a window into a period of intense theological and practical debate, where the boundaries of orthodoxy were still being drawn. In this video, we will explore the significance of these texts, their content, and their impact on the development of Christianity as we know it today. In 1945, a farmer in Upper Egypt made a discovery that would shake the world of biblical scholarship. Near the town of Nag Hammadi, he unearthed a jar containing 13 papyrus codices, written in Coptic, a language that was used by early Christians in Egypt. These texts, now known as the Nag Hammadi Library, include a variety of works, many of which are Gnostic in nature. Gnosticism, a complex and diverse set of beliefs, generally held that the material world is inherently flawed and that salvation comes through secret knowledge, gnosis, rather than through faith or works. One of the most intriguing texts is the Gospel of Truth. Unlike the canonical Gospels, which focus on the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus, the Gospel of Truth emphasizes a mystical and spiritual understanding of salvation. It portrays Jesus as a divine revealer of hidden truths, rather than as a historical figure who lived and died. This text, along with others like the Apocryphon of James and the Gospel of Philip, presents a Jesus who is more of a spiritual guide than a human teacher. The Apocryphon of John, for example, tells a story of John receiving a vision from Jesus, who reveals the origins of the universe and the nature of the divine. This text, like many Gnostic works, is highly critical of the material world and the Creator God, often referred to as the Demiurge. The Demiurge is portrayed as a flawed and ignorant being, far from the all-powerful and benevolent God of the Old Testament. Instead, the true God is seen as a transcendent and unknowable being, accessible only through spiritual enlightenment. Another text, the Gospel of Philip, delves into the nature of marriage and the divine feminine. It suggests that there is a spiritual marriage between Christ and the soul, and that this union is the key to salvation. This text also contains some controversial passages, including one that implies a special relationship between Jesus and Mary Magdalene, suggesting that she was more than just a disciple, but perhaps a spiritual partner or even a wife. These Gnostic texts have often been seen as heretical by mainstream Christianity, and for good reason. They present a version of Christianity that is drastically different from the one found in the New Testament. They reject the idea of a physical resurrection, the importance of the cross, and the role of the church. Instead, they emphasize individual spiritual experience and the pursuit of hidden knowledge. This emphasis on gnosis has led some scholars to argue that these texts represent an early form of Christianity that was later suppressed by the emerging Orthodox Church. In 2006, the National Geographic Society published a translation of the Gospel of Judas, a text that had been discovered in the 1960s, but had remained largely unknown until then. This Coptic text, like the Nag Hammadi texts, presents a different perspective on the life of Jesus and his relationship with his disciples. The Gospel of Judas is particularly notable for its portrayal of Judas Iscariot, the disciple who betrayed Jesus. In the canonical Gospels, Judas is vilified as the traitor who sold Jesus to the authorities for 30 pieces of silver. However, the Gospel of Judas offers a different narrative. According to this text, Judas was not a betrayer but a collaborator. Jesus, in a series of conversations with Judas, reveals that it is his will for Judas to betray him. This act, far from being a sin, is seen as a necessary step in the divine plan. Jesus tells Judas, "You shall sacrifice the man that clothes me," suggesting that Judas is helping to free Jesus' divine spirit from its human body. This idea, known as Docetism, is a Gnostic belief that Jesus was not truly human, but only appeared to be so. The Gospel of Judas has sparked a great deal of controversy and speculation. Some have suggested that it provides a more sympathetic and nuanced view of Judas, while others have dismissed it as a later Gnostic fabrication with no historical value. Despite its late composition, the Gospel of Judas has captured the public imagination and has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and even a Dan Brown novel. Another text that has gained significant attention in recent years is the Gospel of Mary, discovered in 1896. This Coptic text, which is believed to have been written in the middle of the 2nd century, offers a unique perspective on the role of women in early Christianity. The text focuses on the teachings of Mary Magdalene, who is depicted as a prominent and respected disciple of Jesus. In the Gospel of Mary, Jesus instructs Mary about the nature of the soul and the path to spiritual knowledge. He tells her that the soul is not bound by the material world, and that true salvation comes through inner transformation. This teaching is in line with Gnostic thought, which emphasizes the importance of individual spiritual experience over institutional religion. One of the most striking passages in the text is when Jesus says that he values Mary above his other disciples. This statement causes a rift among the disciples, particularly with Peter, who is portrayed as hostile to Mary's leadership. This conflict has led some modern Christian feminists to see the Gospel of Mary as a challenge to the patriarchal structures of the early church. They argue that this text provides evidence that women played a more significant role in early Christianity than is often acknowledged. While the Gnostic texts and the Gospel of Judas have captured the public imagination, the Apostolic Fathers are a group of texts that are often overlooked, but are arguably more important for understanding the development of early Christianity. The Apostolic Fathers are a collection of 2nd century writings that are believed to have been written by the immediate successors of the apostles. These texts, including the Epistle of Barnabas, the Didache, and the Shepherd of Hermas, provide valuable insights into the practices and beliefs of the early church. The Didache also known as the teaching of the 12 Apostles, is a particularly important text. It is a manual for church order and practice, providing instructions on how to conduct worship, manage the community, and live a Christian life. The Didache reflects a time when the Eucharist was still a communal meal, and when the roles of different church leaders, including prophets and apostles, were still being defined. The text also includes early versions of Jesus' sayings, some of which are similar to those found in the canonical Gospels, but are presented in a different form. The Epistle of Barnabas is another significant text. It is a treatise that interprets the Old Testament in a Christian context, arguing that the true meaning of the Old Testament can only be understood through the lens of Christ. The author of Barnabas uses a series of proof texts to show that the temple and Jewish ritual practices have been superseded by the spiritual worship inaugurated through Christ. This text reflects the ongoing tension between Jewish and Gentile Christians, and the struggle to define the relationship between the Old and New Testaments. The Shepherd of Hermas is a more symbolic and allegorical text. It is a series of visions and parables that offer guidance on living a Christian life and dealing with the challenges of sin and repentance. The text is structured around the figure of the shepherd, who appears to Hermas in various forms and provides him with moral and spiritual instruction. The Shepherd of Hermas emphasizes the importance of perseverance in faith and the possibility of a second repentance after baptism, a controversial idea that was debated in the early church. The Nag Hammadi texts and the Apostolic Fathers provide a rich and complex picture of early Christianity. They show that the early church was not a monolithic institution, but a diverse and evolving community with a wide range of beliefs and practices. The Gnostic texts, in particular, challenge the idea that there was a single, unified form of Christianity in the 1st and 2nd centuries. Instead, they suggest that there were multiple strands of Christian thought, some of which were later marginalized or suppressed by the emerging Orthodox Church. The discovery of these texts has also raised important questions about the formation of the New Testament canon. The fact that texts like the Didache and the Shepherd of Hermas were nearly included in the canon suggests that the process of canonization was more fluid and contested than is often assumed. It also highlights the role of power and authority in shaping the religious texts that would become the foundation of Christian faith. The Nag Hammadi texts and the Apostolic Fathers offer a glimpse into a world of early Christianity that is both familiar and foreign. They challenge our assumptions about the origins of our faith and the nature of the texts that have shaped it. As we continue to explore these texts, we are reminded that the story of Christianity is not a straight line, but a complex and often contradictory journey. The more we learn, the more we realize that the early church was a place of vibrant debate and diverse perspectives, a legacy that continues to resonate today.